Yo, have you ever wondered what your 1 rep max is? Instead of randomly adding plates onto the bar to try and figure it out, you can calculate it and then test it. And today, that's what I'll be doing for my bench. If you're also interested in what kind of progression levels you can take to reach 225 or 315, I'll be talking about that a bit as well. And there is a little bit of math involved, but I promise it's not that hard. In fact, I guarantee it. I'll also be going over how long it took me to get to 315, and then the statistics of how many people in America can actually bench 225. So we're gonna start with warm-ups first. I used to just go in and do a set of 135 and then got right into working weight. But recently there's been a lot of pec tearing from a lot of people I know. And I'm just seeing it a lot on social media as well. So I just like doing some dynamic stuff before I start working weight. I also want to show this chart here that is representative of the relationship between reps to failure and percent of 1 rep max. There's actually 3 ways of using this chart, but the first and probably the most important to you would be calculating your 1 rep max. To do that, you start by doing a certain weight until failure, and then you correlate your reps to a percentage using the chart, then you divide by that percentage. The lower the reps to failure, the more accurate this gets. Just to make sure that point hits home, this chart only works if the reps are to failure. If you're at an RPE of less than 10 or an RIR of more than 1, the chart will underestimate you. We'll be using my 225 bench right now. 1 sec. All right, so 225 for 9 reps is 77% of my 1 rep max. We're gonna take 225, divide by 0.77, and we'll get 292 as my 1 rep max. Whew, I am gonna take a little break. That warm up and the 225 actually kind of beat the crap out of me. Whew. We'll move up to 275 after about a 90-second break. It's more like less than a minute now. Whew. Based on this chart that I have, 225 for about 9 is kind of heavy. I could do 60 to 90 seconds, I think. Let me double check. 30 to a minute and a half. We'll do 275 and see how I do. Let's see. All right. So I did do 315 last week. So I don't want to talk a big game and say like, oh, I'm just so weak today, but I will still try 315 today. I mean, that's the hook for the video, so I gotta. Let's see. Too slow. Oh man. Whew. That was heavy. 275 by 3. I don't think I could have done one more. I'm gonna call it a 10 RPE. 275 by 3 is 93% of my 1 rep max. 275 divided by 0.93 is 295. Let's see if it stays there after a long break. For this is muscular strength, so my break can be up to 5 minutes. And you best believe I'm gonna take that full 5, baby. Yes, I am hopeful for today. Take this. And I truly believe consistency is the key to reaching these kinds of numbers. I'm not some fitness influencer. I don't rep 315. Obviously, you can barely rep 275. But that is the goal eventually. And I'm confident most men could reach 225. I don't know about 315. Kind of seems like genetics might play a role. I have neither the time nor money to research that for all of you.
If you can bench 315, there's a good chance you're probably fat as fuck.
And I mean, he's not wrong. Portillo became Porquillo and then Porky.
Not Petito, you know?
And as far as my situation goes, I would hope that 275 is impressive, but I know that because my body weight is 275, this isn't really that impressive. And if you can do your body weight for at least 3, then you are pound for pound as strong as me. And if you can do more than your body weight for more reps, then proportionally, you are much stronger than I am. I like to use this chart by Jeff Nippard to kind of gauge where I'm at in my fitness journey. I'd hope that I can link the video, but if not, the title's at the bottom. But based on this chart, I'm about intermediate across the board, which like I'd take, I guess. I think the easiest way for me to reach that goal of advance would probably be to lose weight rather than gaining strength. I mean, I do like to eat, so it's kind of hard. It's not that hard, I guess, but I mean, I'll talk about that in a future video maybe, because I do kind of want to lose weight, if only for my health. Like I said, I will use a full 5-minute break right here, so I'm just gonna take a second to chill out before I do 315. All right, time to do 315. Whew, good luck to me. Oh, Jesus. Thank you. 315. I'm dead. I might shoot for that just one more time here in a few minutes, but oh, goodness, I'm dying. All right. So for 315, it took me about 8 years to get to this point once I started taking lifting seriously. And I mean, that varies for person to person, depending on how serious you take it. Of that 8 years, I do say I took it seriously, but in reality, for the first like 3 or 4 years, I wasn't tracking anything that I was doing. I didn't really know like technique that well. And so it's just like, it wasn't the best way to use 8 years for lifting, you know? And I'm sure I could have done it in like 5 years or less if I knew everything I know now and how to do progression to get there. But you know, you gotta learn, you live and learn. And like I said, I do wanna get to the point where I can rep 315, which I'm obviously a little ways away from, but can't say my fitness journey is done yet. I'd say I would want to do maybe 6 reps for 315. Using that chart, 6 reps would put 315 at 85% of my 1 rep max. The 1 rep max would be 370. And that's the same method of using this chart as that first way I showed already. But then from there, I would want to know what weight to use as progression. So let's say using the 60% 1 rep max, 67% 1 rep max, and the maybe 75. That would be a 225 for 20 reps, which I'm only about halfway to, I guess. 250 for 12 reps, and then 275 for 10 reps, respectively, to those percentages. And I did say there were 3 ways to use that chart. The last way, we can say, let's use 185 as an example. How many reps of 185 would you have to do to get to a 1 rep of 315? You would divide 185 by 315 and you get about 58%. That's not even on this chart, but you can see that from 65 to 60%, it's about 1% per 1 rep. So you could say it would be about 22 reps of 185 for it to be 1 bench of 315. And this works much better the closer you are to that 1 rep max. So say 185 to 225, you would do 185 divided by 120 or 225, you get 82%, which is about 7 reps. So if you could do 7 reps of 185, you can definitely do 1 bench or 1 rep of 225. I wasn't keeping track. I don't know how long that was. I forgot to put a timer on. I like using the Strong app to track my workouts. I guess I'll shoot for 315 one more time. We'll see. I am done with that. There's no way I could do one more of anything. I'm freaking dead. I also want to hit on how common 225 is as a bench. One might think that because everybody's posting it, everybody can do it, but that's kind of a frequency illusion, where because you see it so often, you think it's very common, but in reality, it's kind of not. Like if somebody posts a 185 bench, that's not going to gain any traction because nobody really cares. It's not impressive to non-lifters, it's not impressive to lifters. But as soon as a fitness influencer benches 225 once or for a few times, everybody loses their minds. And so I'm going to go over some stats, but you got to kind of take everything with a grain of salt because I couldn't possibly narrow it down to a specific number of people that can bench 225 or even a specific percentage that can do it. And some of the stats do kind of overlap, but I'll definitely try and do this better than those did before me. However, if you think like my stats are just messed up or I'm doing it improperly, let me know and I'll like take it into consideration, you know, because nobody's perfect and I'm no statistician. And I'll be rounding up all my numbers just to include any dudes that don't have a gym membership, because this is mostly based on people that go to a actual like brick and mortar gym rather than at home. Starting with the US population, we start our number at 340 million people. Of those, we're knocking out 80% outright because only around 69 million have a gym membership. Looking at USA Today, it reports that 67% of gym memberships go unused. And people are definitely not benching 225 if they don't go to the gym. 67 don't use it, meaning 33% do. And 33% of 69 million is 23 million. There's 2 stats of attendance here, but we'll use the more inclusive 38%. Of the 23 million, only 38% go multiple times a week. And let's face it, if you're only going once or twice a week, you're not benching 2 plates. 38% cuts that 23 million into just 9. And like I said, I'm always rounding up. We're at 9 million that actually go to the gym and go multiple times a week, but not everyone uses weights. Only 38%. It is weird that 38% popped up again, but I'm just gonna use it. This stat says that people use fitness and cardio machines weights. So I'm just gonna pretend that it means only weights, and just to be extra inclusive, and that 38% of 9 million is 4 million. Looking at the 4 million, we'll divide by the total population, 4 million over 340 million, and we get 0.0117, or about 1.2%. And that is a very generous estimation that at least 1 in every 100 people can bench 225. But let's look at some holes in all my stats there. I did my best to use good and backed percentages, but I can't know for certain without paying for some of that information for me to get. So really, those percentages are just what I could gather off the internet without paying for some kind of dissertation about memberships and how many people use them. But based on these stats, I'm saying that every single person that goes to the gym multiple times a week and uses even 5-pound dumbbells can bench 225. And just looking at that, let's face it, that's pretty wrong. That is what that 1.2% is, that people go to the gym multiple times a week and they use weights. 1.2%. So 1 out of every 100 people can bench 225, but that is, like I said, very generous. The actual percentage is probably much less than 1.2. And some people will say, but I know 30 people at my high school that could bench 225. I mean, to that, I would say, did you watch all 30 bench 225? And how big's your high school? Because my high school was 2,000 kids. So 30 out of 2,000 would be 1.5%. And that's for high schoolers, people that do not go and work 8 hours and then come home and are too tired after work to put in some work, you know? So 1.5% of people that have all the time in the world to work out is actually egregiously high. And I do also want to hit on this article that I read that said that 1 million people in the US could bench 225. It's a little difficult to believe that the number is that low just because they did a lot of guesswork and, I don't know, just arbitrary stuff. So like looking through it, I can agree with most of the points, but I don't know if I agree with a whopping 80% not using their gym membership, because from what I gathered, it's 67%. I mean, it's only like a 13% difference, but it makes all the difference sometimes. And I can't agree with adding the stat that says 50% of gym members quit after 6 months. Him using it that far along in the line kind of doesn't make sense, because at that point, he's using people that do have a gym membership, actually go multiple times a week, and do not go to socialize, and then he knocks them in half, which wouldn't make sense, because earlier he does talk about people just not going and people only going to socialize. So like, it's kind of doubling up on stats almost. And then the author halves that number and arbitrarily adds 350,000 people. It's almost so close to almost doubling it again. So I mean, I don't really know what he's doing. And then at the end he says, Einstein couldn't refute these equations. And I mean, all I have to say to that is like, foot gucking thing, I'm not Einstein, you know? I've been holding on to like some heat just after reading that, like what is this guy doing? But anyway, that's my bench. That's my take on these stats. And I'm gonna do the rest of this workout. Stay hungry. Just for anyone who cares, I did realize after editing that I did exceed my calculated 1 rep max. I completely forgot that I said it was 295. And I've done 315 before, so that's how I knew I could do it again after a break. And let's face it, I definitely took some bucking breaks, which is why I went past my calculations. Here I'm doing 225 for 10 at a 9 RPE. So dividing 225 by 70% does get me 321, which is almost exactly my 1 rep max as of June.
That's 320. That's 320.